I just asked my fiancée's best friend out to dinner in front of her. The engagement exploded. Not sure how I feel. So Harper and I have been together for 5 years. We met when we were both basically starting from scratch after college. I was working entry-level at a tech company. She was freelancing for fashion brands out of a studio apartment with 2 roommates. We built everything together. I designed the ring myself using gold from my mom's old jewelry because I wanted it to mean something real, not just expensive. Things were good, really good, until about 3 months ago when something shifted. Harper started going out more, which is fine, but it was different this time. She'd come home at 2 a.m. smelling like cocktails and cigarettes, talking about networking events and industry connections. Her friend Riley was always involved. Riley works in PR, single, and has this whole live your best life philosophy that basically means partying every weekend and treating relationships like they're optional accessories. I started noticing Harper's Instagram changing. More club photos, more skin, captions like enjoying my freedom and still got it. Which, whatever, post what you want. But it felt weird when you're planning seating charts for a wedding. When I'd mention it, she'd snap at me about being controlling or not trusting her. So I backed off. Last night was Riley's birthday party at some rooftop bar downtown. I almost didn't go because I had work early, but Harper insisted I make an appearance. So I showed up around 10 p.m., found Harper and her friends in the VIP section. Everyone was already pretty drunk. I grabbed a beer and tried to blend in, but honestly I felt out of place. These weren't my people. Around 11 I went to find a bathroom. The hallway outside was quieter, and that's when I heard Riley's voice coming from around the corner. She was talking to Harper and maybe 2 other girls. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but Riley's voice carried. Girl, seriously though, you've only dated one man your entire 20s. You should test the market before marrying your first buyer. What if there's better out there? You'll never know. I froze. One of the other girls laughed nervously. Then I heard Harper's voice, quieter but clear. I know sometimes I look at him and think, is this really it? Is this all there is? I love him, but I keep wondering what else is out there. Something in my chest tightened. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. I just stood there trying to process what I just heard. I don't remember walking back to the VIP section. I don't remember what I was thinking. I just remember seeing Harper laughing with Riley later, both of them holding drinks. I kept telling myself maybe I misheard. Maybe she didn't mean it that way. And when I walked toward them, Harper gave me this smile that was a little too bright. She leaned in and said, half joking, "My friends think I should test the market before I lock myself down. Can you believe that?" That's when it happened. Something in me just snapped, not in an angry way, more like clarity. I smiled, nodded once, and said calmly, "Maybe they're right." The smile faded from her lips. She blinked, confused, but I continued, loud enough for their whole group to hear. "Maybe we should both explore our options before making such a big commitment. Really make sure we're not settling." Harper's face went white. Riley's eyebrows shot up. The music seemed to get quieter even though it didn't. Then I turned to Riley and said, "Actually, how about you help me start? Want to grab dinner next week? There's this new steakhouse downtown I've been wanting to try." The look on Harper and Riley's faces was absolutely priceless. Riley opened her mouth, closed it, looked at Harper, then back at me. And then she said, "You know what? Sure, why not?" The entire section exploded. Harper started screaming. People started filming on their phones. Harper was crying and yelling about disrespect and how dare I humiliate her like this, how I was trying to get back at her for nothing. I just stood there, weirdly calm, and said, "I'm just following your logic. You want to test the market, let's both test it." She had nothing to say to that, so she decided to throw her drink at me instead. I simply stepped aside. She missed, which only pissed her off even more. Then she stormed out. I left right after. This morning Harper came by with her mom to pack her stuff. She was crying, saying I never trusted her, that I was making her feel replaceable, that she was just joking and I took it too seriously. I told her, "You replace me first in your mind. I'm just making it official." She looked like she wanted to throw another drink at me. I just gave her a small smile, the kind that said, "You might want to work on your aim first." She left, Said I'd regret making her feel this way. I said nothing. My best friend Nate called me an hour ago asking what the hell happened because he saw videos on someone's Instagram story. I told him everything. He said I'm either a genius or an idiot and he hasn't decided which yet. So now I'm here. Wedding is canceled. Half our friends are blowing up my phone asking what happened. My parents are devastated. And I have a dinner date with my ex-fiancée's best friend in 2 days that started as a power move, and now I don't even know what it is. Did I overreact? Should I have just talked to Harper privately? Part of me feels like I just burned my entire life down over one overheard conversation. But another part of me feels like I've been watching the slow burn for months and just finally acknowledged the fire. I don't know what I'm asking for here. Maybe just to write it all out and see if it makes sense. Edit, to answer some question, yes, I'm actually going to the dinner. No, I'm not trying to date Riley for real. I think we both know this is weird and complicated. I'll update after Thursday. To everyone asking why I proposed if things were rocky, they weren't rocky when I proposed. That was 8 months ago. The change happened recently. Update 1. You guys wanted an update, so here it is. Fair warning, this got weird. Really weird. So Thursday night I met Riley at the steakhouse. I got there first. When she walked in, she looked different than at the party. Less makeup, jeans, and a leather jacket, hair pulled back. She spotted me and had this half smile like we were both in on some private joke about how absurd this whole situation was. We got seated. First 10 minutes were awkward as hell. The waiter kept looking between us like he was trying to figure out if this was a date or a business meeting or what. We ordered drinks and steak. Then Riley just laughed and said, "This is the weirdest thing I've ever done." I stared at her for a moment before answering. Part of me wanted to tell her to go to hell. She poisoned Harper's mind for months, planted those seeds of doubt, made my fiancé question everything we built together. And now she wanted to make small talk like we're buddies. But another part of me knew that Harper made her own choices. Riley didn't force her to say those words. Riley didn't make her pull away from me for 3 months. Harper's an adult who could have shut down those conversations. She didn't. So I asked her straight up, "Why'd you say yes?" She took a slow sip of her wine. "Honestly, because you called my bluff. I've spent years chasing drama because." She gave a small shrug. "Well, it's fun. I just never thought anyone would actually throw it back at me like that. And definitely not in front of everyone. It was either run or own it." "That was new to hear," I said. "Right, you know you're not innocent in this, right?" Riley didn't deflect. She just nodded and said, "Yeah, I'm aware." So we started talking. Really talking. Turns out Riley's whole party girl, stay single thing is a defense mechanism. She was engaged once at 24 to some finance guy who cheated on her 2 weeks before their wedding with his secretary. Cliché as hell, but it destroyed her. She called it off, threw herself into work and nightlife, and built this whole persona around being too smart to get tied down. She didn't want Harper to get married because she's terrified her friends will end up like she almost did. I told her about how the last 3 months had felt. How Harper changed, how I felt like I was losing her to some version of herself that wasn't real, just an Instagram filter of what freedom is supposed to look like. How I'd been planning to talk to her seriously after the birthday party, but then heard that conversation and just snapped. Riley put down her fork and looked at me dead serious. "I didn't mean for you two to break up. I was drunk and being a bitch." "But Noah, honest to God, Harper's been miserable for months. I'm not the one who started this." Harper wouldn't admit it, not even to herself, but she kept talking about how her life was on rails and she couldn't get off. Every time we went out she'd say, "This is the last time," and then text me the next weekend wanting to go out again. That hit different. I asked if Harper ever actually wanted to leave me or if Riley was pushing her. Riley said it was more complicated than that. Harper wanted the wedding and the life we built, but she also wanted to feel like she'd lived first, like she hadn't just gone from college to career to marriage without breathing. "The thing is," Riley said, "I don't think she wanted to leave you. I think she wanted permission to be scared. And I gave it to her, which makes me the asshole here. I'm not denying that. I just wanted you to know what was actually going through her head." She paused, then added, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just saying I know what I did and I'm sorry. Harper made her own choices, but I pushed her toward them. That's on me. It wasn't enough to fix anything, but it was honest. And honestly, it was more accountability than Harper had given me. We ended up talking for 3 hours. About relationships, about fear, about how social media makes everyone feel like they're missing out on some better version of their life that doesn't exist. Riley admitted she hasn't had a real relationship in 5 years because she's too afraid to try again. I admitted I'd been so focused on building a perfect future with Harper that I maybe ignored signs she was struggling in the present. At the end of the night, walking to our cars, Riley said, "We're not dating, right? Like this was just two people who blew up a relationship and needed to understand why." I laughed. "Yeah, we're not dating. We're just two guilty people having expensive steak." She hugged me goodbye, and that was that. Now here's where it gets messier. Harper has been calling and texting non-stop since the dinner. Someone must have seen us and told her because she left me a voicemail at 11 p.m. that night crying and screaming about betrayal. Then this morning I got an email, a long one, about how Riley manipulated both of us, how she never meant what she said, how I was being cruel by going out with her best friend to hurt her. I haven't responded to any of it. My friend Nate says I should block her and move on. My mom called and asked if there's any chance we can work it out because she really liked Harper. I don't know what to tell her. The truth is I don't feel heartbroken. I feel relieved, which probably means it was already over even before the party. I just didn't want to see it. Riley texted me yesterday. Harper called me a snake and said we deserve each other. Want to get coffee and joke about how we're both single again? I said yes. Because honestly, she's the only person who actually understands what happened. So no, we're not dating, but we're becoming friends in this weird post-explosion way. Riley kept finding little ways to make it up to me, playing it off as a joke. And I just let her because I'd be lying if I said I'd completely forgiven her. People at work keep asking me if I'm okay, and I keep saying yes because I actually am. The apartment feels empty, which takes some time to get used to, but it also feels peaceful. I've been going to the gym, cooking actual meals instead of DoorDash, and sleeping better than I have in months. Maybe I'm in denial. Maybe I'm having some kind of breakdown and this is just the calm before the storm. But right now, sitting here on a Saturday morning drinking coffee in a quiet apartment with no one asking me to go to some club or judging me for staying in, I feel more like myself than I have in a year. Edit. Yes, I'm aware this sounds like the start of a rom-com with Riley. It's not. We've already established that we're terrible together and better as chaos buddies. Harper's friends are messaging me calling me every name in the book. I've muted most of them. One girl said I weaponized Riley against Harper, which is a wild way to describe asking someone to dinner, but okay. For the record, Riley's been getting worse messages. We had coffee yesterday and she showed me some of them. People are brutal, but she just shrugged and said she probably deserved it anyway. She's definitely something. Update 2. I wasn't planning to post again, but some of you have been DMing asking what happened. So here's the 6-month update. Buckle up because this took some turns I never saw coming. First off, Riley and I never dated. I know some of you were waiting for that plot twist, but it didn't happen. We stayed friends, though, in this odd way where we both understood we'd been part of each other's weirdest life moment. We got coffee every few weeks, talked about life, called each other out on our bullshit. It was therapeutic in a strange way. About 2 months after everything exploded, Riley invited me to a fashion brand launch event. Her company was handling PR for it. I almost said no because I'm not a fashion event guy, but I'd been hermiting pretty hard and Nate kept telling me I needed to actually leave my apartment for things other than work and the gym. So I went. That's where I met Sophie. She's 27, works as a stylist for the brand Riley's company represents. We ended up talking at the bar because we were both clearly the most underdressed people there and kept making eye contact every time someone walked by in something ridiculous. She started the conversation by saying, "That guy's wearing a sweater that costs more than my car," and I was sold. We talked for 3 hours, about everything. She grew up in Portland, studied design, moved to the city for work but hasn't quite adjusted to the pace of it all. She's into hiking and vintage furniture and makes her own pasta on weekends. She asked me what I did, and when I said software engineering, she didn't immediately glaze over. She actually asked good questions about what I work on. It felt easy in a way nothing with Harper had felt in months. I got her number. We texted for a week before I asked her out properly. Our first date was a Saturday afternoon hike followed by tacos. No fancy restaurants, no nightclubs, no Instagram moments. Just talking and walking and eating good food. By date 3, I was completely gone for this woman. Sophie's the exact opposite of Harper in the best way. She's calm, grounded. When she says she's going to do something, she does it. She doesn't need validation from social media or nights out to feel alive. She's content being home on a Friday reading a book, but she's also down for spontaneous road trips. Everything feels balanced, easy, right. We've been together for 4 months now and I've never been happier. She met Nate last month and he pulled me aside later and said, "Don't mess this one up." Thanks, Nate, real helpful. But I get what he means. This feels different. Solid. Now for the weird part. About 3 weeks ago, Riley called me and said, "Don't freak out, but Harper's getting married." Apparently she met some guy named Derek 2 months after we split. He's 35, owns a chain of gyms, drives a Tesla, fits the whole successful entrepreneur aesthetic. They got engaged after 4 months. Fast. Here's the kicker. Riley's company is planning the wedding. She sent me a photo of the venue mock-ups. I sent back a thumbs up emoji. I'm not gonna lie, seeing both of us move on this fast made me realize Harper and I had probably been holding on to something that ended long before that birthday party. We just needed an explosion to finally admit it. Riley told me Harper seems happy, or at least busy. The wedding's in 2 months, huge production, 200 guests, 3 dress changes. Riley said planning it has been a nightmare because Harper keeps changing her mind about everything. She wants the Instagram wedding, not the actual marriage, Riley said. She just doesn't want to miss out while everyone else is having their fairy tale weddings. Same pattern, different guy. I asked Riley if she felt guilty. She said not anymore. I learned that you can't save people from themselves. Harper was going to spiral with or without me. I just happened to be the one she handed the match. But you walking away was the best thing for both of you. You know that, right? I do know that. Sophie knows the whole story. I told her everything on date 5. She listened, didn't judge, and said, "Sounds like you dodged a bullet and found yourself at the same time." So that's where I'm at. Taken for 4 years, engaged for 8 months, dumped at a birthday party, accidentally became friends with the chaos agent, met someone incredible at a fashion event I didn't even want to attend, and now I'm watching my ex-fiancée marry someone else while dating the woman who actually feels like home. Life is weird, but it's good weird. The kind of weird where you look back and think, that had to happen exactly that way to get me here. Edit for everyone asking if I'm going to Harper's wedding. Hard no. Riley invited me as a joke and I politely declined. Sophie laughed for 10 minutes when I told her. Someone asked if I ever got closure with Harper. Not really. She stopped reaching out after the first month. I think we both realized there was nothing left to say. Final update. All right, this is it. The actual final chapter. Thanks for sticking with this story for over a year. I proposed to Sophie 3 weeks ago. Used the same ring setting from my mom's gold that I'd used for Harper, but with a different stone. A sapphire this time because Sophie mentioned once that she's never been into diamonds. It felt right. Keep the foundation, build something new on top of it. I did it on a random Tuesday. No big production, no photographer hiding in the bushes, no elaborate plan. We were cooking dinner in my apartment. She was telling me about some nightmare client, and I just looked at her and thought, this is it. This is what I want forever. So I turned off the stove, got down on one knee right there in the kitchen and asked her. She said yes before I even finished the sentence. Then she cried, then I cried, then we both laughed because the pasta was boiling over. It was perfect in the most imperfect way. I called Riley the next day to tell her. She screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "I'm planning this wedding," she said. "I'm calling in every favor, using every contact, and making this the opposite of Harper's disaster." I asked what she meant. Apparently Harper's wedding to Jim Bro Derek was a Pinterest board that came to life and had no soul, and she's been dealing with Harper's texts ever since about how everything felt hollow despite being perfect. Then she got quiet for a second and said, "You know what's wild? A year ago I would have told you not to do this. I would have found 10 reasons why it's too fast or you're not ready. I was so afraid of commitment that I made everyone else afraid too, just so I could feel like I wasn't wrong. But Noah, right now, I'm just genuinely happy for you. Watching you find something real made me realize I want that someday. Just took blowing up a friendship and a lot of therapy to get there." Coming from the woman who once told Harper to test the market before marrying her first buyer, that meant everything. Riley's come a long way, we both have. Here's the full circle moment. 2 weeks ago, Harper reached out, not through text or email. She showed up at a coffee shop where she somehow knew I'd be. I was meeting Nate when she walked in, saw me, and just came over. She looked different, tired but more real somehow, less filtered. "Can we talk?" she asked. Nate looked at me like, "Do you want me to stay?" and I nodded that it was fine. He moved to another table but stayed visible in case I needed an exit strategy. Harper sat down and immediately said, "I'm not here to cause drama. I'm in therapy now, have been for 6 months. My therapist thinks I need closure and I think she's right." She paused, looked at her hands, then at me. "I owe you an apology." She told me that the marriage with Derek lasted 4 months before they separated. They're divorcing now. Turns out he was exactly who he appeared to be, all surface, no depth. "I thought I wanted excitement and validation," she said, "but I was just terrified of growing up. You were never the cage, Noah. My own fear was." She said she'd been doing a lot of work on herself. Deleted most of her social media, changed jobs, started actually dealing with why she self-destructed. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said. "But I wanted you to know I understand now. What we had was real. I'm the one who destroyed it because I was too immature to appreciate it." I told her I appreciate her saying that I hope therapy helps, that I don't have any anger left, just gratitude that it ended before we made bigger mistakes like actually getting married. She asked if I was seeing anyone. I told her about Sophie, about the engagement. She smiled and it looked genuine. "Then maybe we both grew up," she said. She left after that. Hugged me goodbye, said she hopes I'm happy, walked out. Nate came back over and said that was surprisingly mature. I agreed. Sophie asked me that night how it felt seeing Harper. I told her it felt like running into an old high school friend. You remember the history, but you've become completely different people. There's no spark, no tension, just acknowledgement that you both existed in each other's stories once. So here I am, getting married next spring to a woman who makes me laugh every day, who doesn't need me to be anyone other than exactly who I am. Riley's planning a wedding that's going to be genuine instead of performative. Nate's my best man and has already written a speech about how I survived a bomb going off to find actual peace. Harper's moving forward with her own healing. Everything that felt catastrophic a year ago turned out to be necessary. Thanks for being part of this journey, Reddy.